make the session live. Okay, thank you. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra ki jai. Shri Shri Nidai Gauranga ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nidai Gaura Premanande. So welcome everyone for the Sunday morning session on science of self-realization. For those who are joining newly or recently joined, for them, just to give a brief, this is the book on which we are discussing on every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. onwards for 45 minutes. So this is a book having the teachings of Prabhupada compared in a very systematic manner. The various essays Prabhupada has written and various talks Prabhupada had with prominent personalities across the world. Prabhupada had some letter exchanges with some eminent people across the world. So all such compilation of articles in a very systematic manner, subject-wise have been compiled, and we have been discussing on this from this book. So today we have brought to you a very interesting topic from this book. The title is regarding the very fundamental aspect of our life, the why, where, and how of the surrender. Or to surrender. Where do we, we have this aspect of surrendering, right? So we'll just touch upon this one important philosophical point today. Now, what does Prabhupada say? So this particular topic is part of the conversation which Srila Prabhupada had with one professor by name Professor Katowski. This is a professor from Moscow University, Russia. Prabhupada visited Russia in 1971, June, for 5 days. During his visit, he happened to meet this professor and had a very lengthy conversation. So during one of the discussions like this particular point was discussed about surrender, right? So we'll try to get more insight with regard to what is surrender, why should we surrender, and how to surrender in today's topic. Okay. This presentation is the inspiration of our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, who established a worldwide Hare Krishna movement, ISKCON, and because of his wonderful books which he has given us, teachings he has given us, we're all going on in our spiritual life. So let's begin the session with one very vital question which all of us will be having behind back. The question is, who am I? What is my real nature? Right? All of us are right now thinking that I am this body, or identifying myself with this body as male, female. It's like animals identify. Or we are thinking I'm an engineer, I'm a businessman, I'm a doctor. Like this, we have many identifications or designations being given to the body. When you ask, who am I, or who are you? We'll say, I am so and so. My name is so and so. Like this, we identify ourselves with many aspects in our life. Actually speaking, who am I? It's a very important question. What is my real nature? This is a very important question. This question was asked by one of the most intelligent persons by name Sanatana Goswami 500 years ago to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. So this question was put before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what was the answer? We'll just go through that now. So the question which Sanatana Goswami asked Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is about the Swarupa or real constitution.
Shut your ass up, nigga.
So we request.
What's that in your head? Is that sniper laser?
Please mute your voice. Whoever is having the sounds on.
Sorry, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so the important question.
Shut the fuck up.
Hello. So Sanatana Goswami put before.
Hello. Fuck you. Fuck you.
I think that.
I'm saying hi.
Bloody fuck you.
I request
Bloody.
host to please mute the sounds while the session is going on. So Sanatana Goswami asked Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about who am I? What is my Swarupa or real constitution as the living entity? For this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu responded by telling that the constitutional position of the living being is to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Very straightforward and simple answer. So here, we'll go to elaborate on this particular point. And we will also try to understand many other aspects in this matter. One second. Just hold on. Some sort of a disturbance. Somebody has joined unauthorizedly. We will try to handle that. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving us the very important answer to the question of Sanatana Goswami regarding our nature, true nature. Who am I? And what is my real nature? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, Jivera Swarupa Nityara Krishna Das. The living entity in this material world actually has come to the material world taking different bodies, but actually its real nature is to serve Krishna, to become, to remain devotee of Krishna. This is the real nature of the living entity. So this is the question, answer which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given, and we'll elaborate on this point actually now. More elaboration will happen. So if you analyze the part of the statement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can very well see that every living being is constantly engaged in the business of rendering service to another living being. Right? So basically, this boils down to the point of understanding that every living being is actually having a nature, Swarupa. So what is the Swarupa? So it boils down to the understanding that we are all actually rendering service to another living being. Our nature, our Swarupa is to render service. It's like the example of if you say, take any element in this material world. So for example, fire. Fire's nature is to give heat and light. Likewise, the nature of the living in the every element is so obvious. Likewise, we have nature of living entity, Atma. The living entity's nature is to render service. That is the point. A living being serves another living being in different capacities, and by so doing, the living entity enjoys life. Right? So you can see around us, living entities everywhere. They're all rendering service to each other in different capacities, and that's how the life is going on. A lower animal serves a human being as servant serves his master. Right? Just like we are taking service from many, many entities. Here we are seeing the image of two bulls pulling the bullock cart. So we are seeing in the material world that the phenomena what is working is A serves B master, then B serves C master, and just like somebody is serving one person, another person also serves some other person. That's what I mean to say. And we have been doing services. Just like these bulls are serving the person, or farmer maybe. The farmer is also serving his family. And C serves D master and so on. Right? This is our nature, to render service to someone and accept service from somebody else. So, under the circumstances, we can see that a friend is serving another friend, and the mother is serving the son, or the wife serves the husband, or husband serves the wife. Right? So, this is the obvious point which we can see here. That our attitude of doing service is always there. We're going on with the service mode, service motive, and service nature, and we are trying to do render service and also accept service. Right? Just like in the family also, and the family members, each other are cooperating with each other to take services and also render service. Mother is serving the children, or the children after they are grown up, they'll serve the mother. Like this, the exchange of service is always there in our dealings. If we go on searching in that spirit, it will be seen that there is no exception in the society of the living being where we do not find the activity of service. Right? The aspect of service is so obvious in our dealings that we cannot deny or we cannot avoid this service. Service is always there. Something or the other, we'll be taking service or we'll be rendering service. That is our nature. Jivera Swarupa Nitya Krishna Dasa. So, our original nature is to render service to Krishna. Whereas right now in the material world, we have been doing this service to different entities around us. As family members, as friends, as relatives, as society, community. The service is going on. The service spirit is going on. That's what I mean to say. So, in the human society, this service spirit is always there, prevalent in everybody. Just like the politicians, they, very much in the UP, the elections are, around the corner. You can see politicians are presenting their manifestos before the public, and they're trying to convince the voters about the service capacity, what service deliverables which they're going to do. And the voter also is seeing that the politician may render good service, so he's giving his valuable vote with the expectation that tomorrow I'll be getting, the good services from the politician, right? And the shopkeeper, you go to any shop, the shopkeeper is serving the customers, and the artisan serves the capitalist serves his family, and the family serves the headman. In this way, the service aspect is going on with all the different living entities in this whole creation. So in this way, we can see there's no living being exempt from the practice of rendering service to other living beings. So we can conclude safely that rendering service or taking service from other living beings is something which is very much part or nature of the living being. This was the question we asked. Who are we? What is our real nature? So rendering of service by a living being is the eternal nature, eternal religion of the living being. See, again, the word religion is being used here, basically to give us the understanding that religion, dharma is actually Sanskrit word. Religion is not actually the equivalent word. Dharma means the intrinsic nature, the actual nature of Atma. What is the intrinsic nature of Atma? The intrinsic nature of Atma is to render service. Eternally, we are rendering service to other entities. Right? Just like, we have different faiths, a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or other faiths. In all circumstances, in whatever faith we may be, following, but we are servant of somebody, right? And thus to profess a particular type of faith, that is not called Sanatana Dharma actually, but being the rendering service to Krishna, that is the service aspect of the living entity to render service to Krishna, that is called Sanatana Dharma. Because whatever service we do in the material world is only for this life, in this body we do. But our nature of doing service is there eternally with us. That Sanatana nature is there in us. When it is again, reposed to Krishna, That is called Sanatana Dharma. Okay. So now the basic question of why should we surrender? Like, okay, my nature is to render service. I'll go on doing service to so many entities around me and different things around me. Why should we surrender to somebody, or why should we surrender to any authority, or surrender to some situation? Why this aspect of surrender comes in our life is something we'll discuss now. Today's topic is a little philosophical. I request the the audience to see that they fully focus and be alert in what is being discussed here. In the Bhagavad-gita, in the last chapter, 18th chapter, 66th verse, Lord Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam praja, which means you give up all other forms of religion and just surrender to me. Which means Krishna is giving the direction that just surrender to Krishna, nothing else, and everything Krishna will take care. Krishna says surrender, full surrender, only to him, Krishna says. Maam ekam, Krishna says. So give up all forms of religion and just surrender to me. The instruction Krishna is giving. There is real knowledge to surrender to the Supreme. So basically the whole Bhagavad-gita we see carefully if you study. In every chapter, Krishna is advising us to surrender to him, render service to him. So if somebody is not familiar with the understanding of Krishna's teachings in Gita, it will look like, oh, Krishna is demanding so much. He wants us to surrender to him. But this is not demanding. This is something which is very obvious and which is very factual. And we'll go through the few more slides. Will be very clear for us. Actually speaking, all of us, whether yourself or me or anyone, is surrendered to someone. Our life is by surrender, which is a fact. We are working as a professional, working in a specific as a professional in an organization or a company. So we have to surrender ourselves to the rules, regulations of the company. Or, for example, myself is part of an organization, so I have to surrender myself to or abide by the norms of this organization. It is part of the way. That is how we are supposed to conduct ourselves. Right? We have to surrender to a system, just like the family also, husband, wife, children. All of us have to abide with a common understanding of how to move forward, how to take it forward. Right? So, not that everybody thinks in his own way, everybody works in his own way. That will not, give any, way forward to the family. Unless and until all of us agree. Agree means what? I agree, I understand, I surrender. That's the meaning. Surrender meaning that, I fully agree on what is being told. Right? I abide with the rules, regulations, or understanding of the way I am supposed to move forward. That is called surrender. So it is a fact that all of us are surrendered to someone or some system or some way of setup of things. Whether you surrender to monarchy, this is the statement Prabhupada is making in the conversation. Whether you surrender to monarchy, democracy, aristocracy, or dictatorship, you have to surrender. That is a fact. It's like if you are under you're a citizen in any country, for that matter, you have to abide by the rules, regulations put forward by the government of that country. In some countries, we see democracy, and in some countries, there is dictatorship. Earlier, we had monarchy. So, likewise, whatever system it is, the citizens have to surrender themselves. This is also a fact. And without surrender, there is no life. It's not possible. Surrender has to be there. Otherwise, we cannot independently say, I'm not surrendered to anybody. I'll just, I'm totally not having any connection with anybody. No. If you carefully analyze, our life is all surrender to somebody. Just like the child is completely surrendered to mother for care and whatever protection required. So likewise, there is a way in which the things are functioning. To analyze that, you see, without surrender, there is no life. It is not possible. The statement Prabhupada is making in the teachings. So we are educating people, this Prabhupada statement, that we are educating people to surrender to the Supreme, wherefrom you get all protection Just as Krishna says, just now we discussed this point. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Actually, in our life, we have been surrendering to so many things, surrendering to our own senses, surrendering to our family, surrendering to society. But we are seeing all this surrender has some limitations. It is not giving us the real satisfaction what we are expecting. So, the instruction Lord Krishna is giving in Bhagavad-gita is that different types of surrender or trying to abide by some things which we think will make me happy. We are trying to do this life after life. And we have been going around all over the universe in different life forms trying to do this. But we are not finding any solution. We're not finding any happiness. So the ultimate happiness or ultimate satisfaction, ultimate peace of mind you will have when you surrender to Krishna only. This is the instruction Bhagavad-gita is giving us. It's a fact. Because various aspects of different arrangements which we see in the material world are all actually different arrangements based on the living entities' different desires. So different desires living entities have come to fulfill those desires. Each of the living entity has their own priorities, has their own requirements. Very nice example is given by Prabhupada. It's like in the pond, if you throw one stone, that wherever the stone is thrown, from there the ripples come out. And the ripples are all concentric around that stone. If we start throwing many stones, what happens? Say 4 or 5 stones you have thrown. Then the ripples from each stone are generated and the ripples clash with each other. The concentric circles will cross with each other. Right? So our material world is like that. Each of us are like acting as center of ripples, or we have our own way of thinking, trying to work in that way. Each of us are clashing with each other. There's competition, there's comparison always. Whereas in the spiritual realm, or a spiritual way of working is, we have Lord Krishna as the center, and all of us have to abide by his rules, regulations. It's not that out of force we are doing it, it's out of love being done, naturally being done. Right? Whereas in the material world, many times you may not like to work in an organization, or you may not like to work in a specific manner, but you're forced to work because there's no other way. That way, there's a lot of fine difference with regard to the way we surrender in the material world and way we surrender to Lord Krishna. So Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita that if you surrender to him, he will give all protection from all the previous past karmas. There's no doubt about it. Krishna says, Ma suchaha, don't worry. He says. So no one can say, I am not surrendered to anyone. Not a single person can say. Everybody is surrendered. Even the president of any country has to abide by the constitution of the country. He cannot say, I am independent. Right? Only independent person is Lord Krishna. So the difference is where the person is surrendering. That's all. Right? He is surrendering to something, some system, some way. Surrender basically means to abide by the whatever norms or the given situations and move on. That's what is called surrender. So the ultimate surrendering object is Krishna. This is what the Bhagavad-gita is teaching us. All the Vedic scriptures are teaching us. Therefore, in Bhagavad-gita we see there's a nice verse in 7th chapter. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate. Right? After surrendering to many things, birth after birth, when one is factually wise, he surrenders to me, Krishna says. Vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. Such a mahatma is very rare. So not that the surrender to Krishna is not that it's simply sentiment. It is with proper understanding. Right? This is what this verse is telling. When you surrender to Krishna, actually Krishna is using the word Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan. Jnanavan means one who is wise, one who is knowledgeable, one who understands things properly. Right? Who has already researched, who has already done a lot of studies. Finally, he is coming to the conclusion, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sutullabha. This is the way one is supposed to surrender. When you understand everything is coming from Krishna, everything is sourced from Krishna, he is the controller, he is the maintainer, he is the protector, he is everything, whole and soul, then natural sequence will be to surrender. That's the point. So the surrender will be fully stopped when it is surrendered to Krishna. Because surrender means we are trying to look forward to have that completeness in our existence. Right? We are looking forward for completing our existence in terms of our powers, the Sat existence, it's called. Right? We want power, we want knowledge, Chit existence, knowledge, wisdom, intelligence. We have some limited intelligence. We want further understanding, further intelligence. We want to have more understanding. Or ananda, love, pleasure, joy we want to have. Because we are lacking that, we are trying to look forward for that in different other people around us. But all these Sachidananda aspects which we are looking forward for will be complete when we approach Krishna, when we surrender to Krishna. Right? That's what this particular statement is telling. The surrender will be fully stopped when we surrender to Krishna. That is full stop. No more surrender. Any other surrender, you have to change by revolution. Actually, when the discussion was going on, Professor Katowski brings in the point that actually French Revolution happened and people revolted against the existing monarchy. They were not happy and they formed, and Prabhupada says, yes, even though they revolted, but they did surrender to the common mass. It is always surrender is there. In that way, the aspect of surrender you cannot run away from. Surrender will be there. You have to surrender to something. Either you have to surrender to your mind or surrender to some external situations, right? External personalities. Surrender is there. It's part of our life. Without surrender, there is no life. This point we have to understand. We are addressing the question why we have to surrender, right? But when you come to Krishna, that surrender is complete. It is sufficient. You are satisfied. Because any other aspect of surrender or trying to seek out or search out for happiness, intelligence, knowledge, wisdom, power, existence is all not satisfying. You may think when you started endeavoring for that oh, this will satisfy me, but actually you're not satisfied. Right? Real satisfaction is there only when you surrender to Krishna. That's the point. It's a very important principle which is explained in Bhagavad-gita very nicely. Then the example, very wonderful example Prabhupada gives is about how when a child is crying and people move him from one lap to another, it does not stop. Small child. But as soon as the baby comes to the lap of his mother, immediately the crying stops. Likewise, we are going on in this material world, life after life, in different life forms, looking for this happiness, that desire, this plan, that plan, no satisfaction. Always frustration and disappointment. Just like, even our material experience, our family life, so much, the whole family's husband, wife are working hard. Finally, they see the children are not satisfied. They themselves are feeling disappointed. Oh, we did so many things, but the way we wanted things are not happening. So likewise, we see in every situation in the material world, there is no actual satisfaction. Even though you have surrendered yourself, you have dedicated yourself, you have given your time, energy completely to see that the family is taken care or whatever you are doing is nicely done, but finally you are ending up with frustration, disappointment. This is the nature of the material world. Any material activity done will end up like this. People are not satisfied with your work, and then there's so many other aspects that they didn't want you, even though you have put so many years of dedicated work for them. Likewise, we see the only satisfaction which you can actually get is when you surrender to Krishna and render service to Krishna. So this surrender, these changes will go on in different categories. Just like nowadays people keep changing jobs, right? Because they don't like this. Because once you are working in a particular institution or organization, you have to abide or you have to surrender to the rules, regulations there. Somehow I don't like these things particularly, I want to change. So these changes may be there, but surrender will always continue to this or that. So sum total of all this is that in the material world, what is happening is that we are surrendering to what is known as Maya, that which is not Krishna. We surrender to our mind's demands, we surrender to some different situations, trying to see, oh, this will give me satisfaction, this will give me happiness, this will give me some sort of a sense of completeness. But nothing is happening simply because we are surrendered to Maya. Maya means illusion. Therefore, the Bhagavad-gita, it is concluded that the surrender is to be for Krishna. If you neglect Krishna and surrender to something else, that is called Maya. Surrender has to be there, either this to Krishna or Maya. So if you surrender to Krishna, then actually you will be happy. As Krishna himself has assured that he will relieve you from all the different sufferings, all the miseries. So Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Right? The process of surrender is there, but surrender to Krishna keeps one quite satisfied transcendentally. It is a transcendental satisfaction, transcendental happiness which a person can experience when you surrender to Krishna. Right? So we discussed on the point of why to surrender. Because surrendering is something which is obvious in our nature. And whom to surrender? Surrendering to Krishna is what is recommended in all the scriptures. We have to surrender to Krishna because the obvious fact that he is the source of everything and he is maintaining us, he is protecting us. So way to surrender, we further understand on this point. Factually, our relationship with Krishna is eternally situated. Right? We are related to Krishna as part and parcel. There's a nice statement in the Bhagavad-gita. Is mentioned, Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We are eternally having our existence as part and parcel. So part and parcel, just like our body. In our body, there are different parts. My hands are there, my legs are there. So all these different parts are meant to serve the whole body. Likewise, because we are part and parcel of Krishna, our duty is to serve Krishna. Our duty is to render service to Krishna. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Enjoyer, and we living entities are eternally His Supreme Servitors. So this statement should be properly understood. When we say Supreme Lord is Supreme Enjoyer, doesn't mean that the servants or the entities who surrender to Him will be suffering. No. Actually, Supreme Lord is so wonderfully reciprocating with all His devotees, for all His servants, that the happiness, whatever Lord is experiencing, is having the same happiness given as reciprocation to all His different devotees. Same level of happiness, transcendental happiness. So basically, the purpose of this creation is that we are created for Lord's enjoyment. And if we somehow partake and participate in the eternal enjoyment with the Lord, that makes us happy and not otherwise. The material mentality is that I want to independently enjoy. No recognition of Lord's existence and Lord's way of functioning in the material world. Independent enjoyment. That will never give us happiness. The way the things are structured is that we partake with Lord Krishna in the enjoyment, different setup which Krishna has made. That is going to give us real happiness. It is the principle which we often discuss in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, that we take pleasure by giving pleasure to Krishna. Right? We don't have independently trying to extract pleasure from anything, because Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure. When you give Him pleasure, automatically pleasure will be shared by Krishna to all of us. But independently trying to enjoy and experience pleasure will only end up in frustration. Right? The philosophical point requires little deliberation. Right? So we are actually created for His enjoyment. What is the purpose of our creation? We are all given this opportunity in the material world to serve His mission, to serve His enjoyment. So we need to understand that unless we do our duty of being part of the bigger mission of the Lord, it will not make us happy. Just like a simple example I can give you. In an organization, when you join in an organization, you are supposed to be abiding by some norms, regulations, right? And accordingly, you have to function. And if you start thinking, no, I will not abide by the laws, rules, regulations of this organization, I will do something on my own. I will start doing things, which is going to please me. then very soon, because you are not in line with the organization's requirement, you may be sent out, or you may be told to resign from this organization, because you are not in line with the organization's requirements, organization's norms. Similarly, Lord Krishna wants us to, rather, Lord Krishna's creation of the material world is to see that we align with that plan of Krishna, mission of Lord Krishna. But what has happened in the material world is that all of us are trying to be independently trying to enjoy this material world. That is the reason for our repeatedly taking birth and repeatedly dying, taking different bodies. Why this material world is going on? This material world is like a prison house, which is having many living entities with independent desires to fulfill those desires. So Krishna is facilitating that also. But in the course of fulfilling our desires, we are forgetting that like this we'll be going on life after life, trying to fulfill the desires, but it will never be satisfied. Right? One more life you take, again you fulfill some other desires. So like this, life will go on. It's called Nitya Baddha Jivana. Eternally conditioned life will go on. But this human life is not meant to go on like this. To take one more body is meant to liberate from this material world. Because sooner we realize that we should be part of the bigger plans of Krishna. We are meant for Krishna's enjoyment. We have come to the right understanding, and that is where our path of liberation has started. Next. So independently, for example, any part of the body, the hand, feet, the fingers, or any part of the body, they cannot be happy without cooperation with the stomach. There's a nice story in this connection, small story. It's called Udarendriyana. Once it so happened that all the different parts of the body, they had a meeting and they were telling, all of us are working so hard. Hand is trying to grasp the food. It's trying to put in the mouth. Mouth is chewing, and oral cavity is fully involved in chewing. Eyes is seeing to the food where it is available. Every one of us are working hard to get the food. But this stomach is not doing anything. It's simply sitting and eating. So they all decided that henceforward we will not supply food to the stomach. So what happened? 1 day passed, 2 days passed, 3 days passed. Now the bodily vitality, bodily strength is reducing slowly. So all the different body parts like hands, legs, eyes, ears, everybody is feeling very weak. So they all again had a meeting, and they understood that actually the food, when it goes to stomach, from the stomach all the energy is distributed. That is how the whole arrangement is. So Supreme Lord is that source of everything, who when he is satisfied, automatically every one of us will be satisfied. One more example is given of a tree. A tree, when the water is poured to the root of the tree, automatically the water nourishment goes to every part of the tree. In that way, the tree is having all the nourishment required. Every part is nourishment is taken care. Independently, you want to water the branches, twigs, leaves. That is tedious job, and it is not the way supposed to take care of the tree. So likewise, in our way of working, the important aspect is that we need to understand, recognize the source of our creation, and that source is Lord Krishna. To render service to him is what is our duty and our responsibility. There's a nice statement in Bhagavad-gita which says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate. Everything in the world, what you see, any animated and inanimated things are all emanating from Lord Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samutta. When you know everything is originating from Krishna, everything is sourced from Krishna, he is the owner, enjoyer, and proprietor. The next sequence will be, you just surrender to this Krishna and render your service to Krishna. Okay, so how to surrender is a question. Next, the last question. Very wonderfully, Prabhupada explains in the conversation. He says, Arjuna, before understanding the Bhagavad-gita, was a fighter. And even after understanding the Bhagavad-gita, he remained a fighter. So, the point is, we don't change our position. It's like, Prabhupada is addressing the professor, Protosky, that you are a respectable professor, a teacher. We don't say that you must change your position. Arjuna was refusing to fight. Krishna, I don't want to kill my relatives. I don't want the kingdom. This way Arjuna was refusing. But he was taught Bhagavad-gita at the end when Krishna inquired, what is your decision now? He said, Karishye vachanam tava. Yes, I shall act as you say. So this is the transformation which happened in Arjuna's way of functioning. He was the same person. The same person means he was a Kshatriya, he was an administrator, and then and he had he was a Grihastha householder. He remained the same person even after hearing Bhagavad Gita, understanding Bhagavad Gita. We are talking about how to surrender. So we did not change our position for surrendering to Krishna. It's like when you say, "Oh, surrender to Krishna" means you have to give up your home, you have to give up your profession, you have to become a sadhu, a mendicant. No, wherever, whatever situation you are in, you can continue doing it. Only thing is that we need to add the aspect of remembering Krishna every day in a very specific manner in the form of doing japa. Okay, so basically Arjuna's consciousness, his way of perception, his way of seeing things around him changed. He was a fighter and he remained a fighter, but he changed his consciousness. So this is what we are expecting from people. This is what we are trying to teach people. We don't want to disturb the present condition of society. Whatever society is, people are engaged in so many different types of activities, so many jobs, so many type of works. There's nothing that we are telling, oh, you give up this, you don't do this. No, please continue doing this. We are not against any technology. We are not against any innovations. We try to make you understand this Krishna consciousness. That is our program, right? When a person understands the philosophy of what we are talking, we are all part and parcel of Krishna. We are supposed to render service to Krishna. And whatever situation you are going on, as a professional, as a businessman, or etc., from that position only you start serving Krishna. And very simplest way of serving Krishna is how? You start chanting Hare Krishna. You may be a doctor, you may be a businessman, you may be whatever, but you can chant Hare Krishna, right? You may be whatever, but you can offer food to Krishna, because all of us are eating something or the other. So offer the food the way Lord Krishna prescribes to us in the Bhagavad-gita. That will actually bring you to the spiritual platform, transcendental platform. That's what we are discussing, right? Unless until we come to the transcendental platform, our situation in the material world will go on. So surrendering to Krishna basically means how to surrender. Surrendering means you continue in your position, whatever you are doing, but the outlook, the consciousness has to change. Say you are having everyday food. Instead of cooking food for myself, I cook the food the way Krishna is telling us in Bhagavad Gita. What does Krishna say? You whatever ingredients you are using for cooking, see that it is all it is all from the vegetable kingdom. They're all grains, fruits, vegetables. Don't use the non-vegetarian food. And you offer this, cook the food in a way that it is understanding that Krishna is going to have this food. Offer it to Krishna, then partake of prasadam. Just like, see, giving pleasure to Krishna, taking pleasure by giving pleasure to Krishna. So offering food to Krishna is a very pleasurable activity. And after that, Krishna is so merciful, he eats the food and gives us back. And that honoring prasadam is even more very blissful service. In the Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned, Susukham kartum avyayam. Right? Bhakti devotional service is so nicely performed, and every activity is very blissful, very happily performed. Right? Like this, whatever situation we are in, we can remain and also satisfy Krishna. We can also render service to Krishna. This is how we can surrender. This is called surrender to Krishna. That is our program. So with this, I conclude today's session. If anybody has anything to ask, you can ask now. Or those who are watching live on the YouTube also, they can write in the comment box. We'll get the questions through our host and we will try to answer them. If anybody want to ask anything, discuss anything, we can take up the questions now. Okay. So we had some technical interruption from some other people in between while session was going on. We handled that. I think hackers are trying to disturb the session. Nevertheless, we'll take care of this next time onwards. Fine. If there's no question from anybody, we will conclude now, and we'll meet again with a new topic next week.